Welcome to Trail Manners, the podcast so dedicated to mountain trails and running that they broadcast out of a 78 Volkswagen bus in the mountains. Who does that? Eric and Joel are your hosts and will bring you the trail life as you may have not heard it before. You hear about everything from gear reviews, nutrition to keep you upright and moving forward, and they'll even bring guests into the bus for conversations that you won't hear anywhere else. It's time for some running adventures on a higher elevation. The old 78 Volkswagen bus is fired up and headed to the mountains. Here are your hosts for Trail Manners, proudly representing the 801 with their passion and love for the trails, Eric Manning and Joel Hatch.
Hello and welcome back to the Trail Manners podcast. This is episode 20. Today, we're going to be talking with Canice Harte from Park City Running Company. So if this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Trail Manners podcast is produced every week for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at trailmanners.com. Come back often, and please feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Trail Manners. All links are in the show notes. Now, let's get after it. Okay, welcome back to the Trail Manners podcast. Once again, Park City Running Company. We got Joel Hatch. Joel, we have a new guest at the table.
We do.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce him?
The owner, founder, visionary, Canice, is here with us today. Thank you very much for letting us come up and do not one but two shows from your store.
No, we're happy to have you guys anytime.
Yeah, so we just wrapped up a show with a very special young lady, Suzanne Lewis. So if you get a chance, go back and listen to that episode. I think you're going to get a lot of great information from it. She was awesome to have.
And so now the table has been set literally for Canice.
That's
so
right.
Here we go. So we got a good show for it. So yeah, again, thanks for letting us come up here. This is such an amazing location.
It is. It's a rocking store.
This is so awesome, and there'll be some photos. I had to take some photos because this place is amazing, and you did a lot of the work yourself, as we just talked about.
Yeah, I think one of the things that helped us. Well, it kind of helps you on cost, but that wasn't really sort of the motivator. We were just trying to get the store open as quick as possible. And so when we got our keys, it was March 1st, and we show up here, or actually, not we, it's me by myself on March 1st. And so I show up here and like 6 a.m., and I'm just looking at a place that used to be at that time, it was a sun tanning bed salon.
Nice.
So all these private cubbies and rooms and lots of just electrical, and there's water fountains and barbed wire hanging on the walls and stuff. But the nice thing about doing the work yourself is, you can get here at 6 in the morning and stay till 2 in the morning, and there's no one to stop you, and you just kind of keep going every day. And then it was kind of funny is actually in the beginning, a few people, as the word was kind of getting out that the store was going to happen, and I think you know how it is in the sort of running community, especially in the trail running community, it's pretty tight-knit. So like people started like calling me like out of the blue. They'd heard about it and offered to help. But usually, they had the best of intentions, but they'd show up, they'd hang out for like, an hour or two, chit-chatting, and then they'd leave. And I'd be like, I just lost a couple hours. I'm like, oh, come on. And a good buddy of mine who actually is now one of my partners in the store, Dominic Layfield, one day Dom says, hey, can I come up and help you? And I was a little bit nervous, like, oh, maybe this is going to be one of those couple
chat
hours.
sessions.
And then, and I'm like, well, yeah, I'll be there 6 in the morning, and I'll be there all day. So anytime you want to show up. And I wouldn't even leave for lunch. I would just maybe walk down to the restaurant next to us, grab something, or bring it back. But Dom shows up at, like 7 in the morning, and he's got like work clothes on, knee pads, a tool belt. And I just remember as the door opened, he came in that I didn't say it, but I was definitely like, as I sort of saw how he was dressed, I was like, all right, he's here to work. We're going to get this done. And then for the most part from that on, it was just Dom and I. And it's funny how a little bit like when we're all training for runs and races and stuff, it was the same way with like tearing down the store. Like if I got here before Dom, I wanted to try to like get as much progress done as I could before he got here, so that he'd walk in and you'd have that one moment of like, wow, you made some progress.
You did something.
Yeah,
nice.
You got a wall down, But yeah, and then there was like classic moments, when I'm here by myself at 1 in the morning with a 40-foot ladder painting the walls, and you realize that it's a dusty cement floor underneath you, and my entire emergency plan is just to keep my cell phone close so I might be able to dial 911 if I couldn't get up. So
on the way down, just hit redial real quick.
I know, you're just like thinking like, how could this is really wrong? But and the best part was actually we ended up going from walking in, unlocking the doors, tearing down walls and painting and building and electricians and everything that goes in, the plumbers and drywall and all that stuff. But we had sign off from the county that we had our change of occupancy certificate, meaning we could actually start selling stuff because we had the business license and whatnot in 27 days.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
And a buddy of mine who owns the shopping center, who kind of really set us up with the space and made all this possible. In the beginning, he's like, "There's no way." He's like, "This is going to take you 3 months. Like, you're crazy to think you can do this in 1 month." And I'm like, "No." And then you could see, like, as he would come in through this process, eventually he'd be like, he's like, "Man, I think you're going to make it." He started believing, at some point. And then we were just so set on, like, we got to, like, hit this date of 30 days to get the grand opening. Or not really a grand opening. We're going to do kind of a soft launch. We're going to open it. But as it turned out, on the 27th day, the county official comes, signs the paperwork, and it still is. It's a gutted, empty store at this point, but some boxes had started showing up. So, we kind of felt like we were a store because in the back we knew we had some shoes back there. Our cash register showed up that morning, and like say 20 minutes after the county official had signed off on the paperwork, someone knocks on the door and they say, "Hey, look, I know you're not open, but I don't really want to have to drive down to Salt Lake right now, and I need a new pair of shoes for spring. Do you by chance have anything?" And I'm like in the back ordering business insurance or something. My buddy Dom's like on a ladder, like putting a piece of I don't know, we're building walls still. And I see Dom like going back to get some shoes. Who he's never sold shoes in his life, so and that was never the intention. Of he's just happy to be helping out. I think is there's a nice local feel where people just wanted to have their own running store. So he's pitching in probably more for that reason. But I'm like back there. The one chair we have in here is like an office chair, and I like roll it out into this empty room of a floor on the cement floor. And I literally go and I open up the boxes to find the register components, which is an iPad these days. And 20 minutes later, we had our first sale.
Nice. Well, there's something to say when you walk into a running store and the guy helping you has got a tool belt and knee pads and hard hat on.
Yeah, right. We're serious about it.
You're going to get the right gear.
Yeah, no, we've been really blessed. It was, going back, in the beginning, a lot of people came to help and would hang out a little bit and just get excited about kind of the idea. But on a more serious note, the Wasatch Mountain Wranglers, which is a group we're all a part of and really passionate about. You can imagine, just imagine a 2,000 square foot place full of walls and a nice pile of dust and debris and all the electrical cables and steel. And so we ended up, having to get one of those like massive dumpsters, and I had to get all this debris out of here. And it's been by myself, and it's one thing to tear down walls by yourself and make a mess. It's another thing to like haul it all in there. Yeah. And so I think it was about 15 of our Wranglers showed up, and it really made pretty light work of it. I think everybody hauled everything away. We recycled everything. We had all the metal off in one pile in a separate bin, the debris in another one, but like in an hour or two, we had everything cleaned up. And so truthfully, I always think of it really not as my store or our store, but it's really a community store, and that's always been our focus.
Well, and it's I'm going to sound like a broken record if someone listens to more than one show a day, but it kind of, to me, goes back to that same feel, and I'm going to play on the trail runner side because that's where I like to play, but that's just the community. That's what they like to do. They're a part of something, and kind of your whole explanation of opening this store kind of me sound like a 100-mile race, where it's like, no, you're not going to get there. Oh, you're getting closer. And then you're just dialed in to hit that date, and then boom, it's you're there. So and again, we're reached, the Wranglers name came up again and what they've done. I mean, I'm going to skip ahead because it's probably right here, but there was a incident a few months ago with a lost runner, and this became literally a hub for people to find out more what was going on with search and rescue, volunteering. I know I put my information on the Park City Running Company site. So, I mean, it's a community. It is your store, you and Dom's, but people, I think, feel a part of it.
Yeah. And that was our hope. We've, I just really feel fortunate. And to get into how we get to, in this case, it was Stephen Jones when he was caught in an avalanche. We've now celebrated birthdays and with Stephen's wake and a pretty wide range of things. But our focus really, and it still is, I've said it to the entire team, and I'll say it to the end, like all we have to do is take care of runners as runners ourselves and provide great service. And if we do that, I think good things are going to happen. And I keep telling everybody, look, I'll worry about all the office stuff and, all that non-exciting, not really sexy, like paying bills and, bookkeeping and all that. But I just want, if we can just take care of the running community, I think we're going to be good. And I think in today's world of retail, right, when you got big box and internet and all these things, if you're going to be a specialty retail store, in this case, like kind of a mom and pop style store, then you have to be part of the community if you're really going to make it. And in the case of Stephen, it was particularly heartbreaking. Stephen is a great person, obviously, but he was also here 5 days a week. So Stephen worked from home, and so he'd come down here to get he'd get a 20-ounce, mocha latte like every day. Like I think we were his break. He'd get away from the house and he'd come down here. So Jenilyn, one of our employees, Jenilyn, who I know has been on your show, and myself and a few of us, we'd basically be chatting with Stephen like an hour a day, 5 days a week.
Wow.
And then you go on these group runs that we do on the weekends, and so now you're running with people. And if you think about what you do with your friends, you hang out and you talk, and you may go running with each other. And that's, why the people that come to our store on a regular basis, and someone like Stephen, he's not a customer, he's just a really, really good friend. And then when this happened, it's just heartbreaking. It's just like, you're just trying to hope for the best. And the community, to your point, is so strongly and tight-knit that on the Wasatch Mountain Wrangler Facebook page, you could see people trying to rally. Like, everybody's just frustrated. You just want to go help.
Yeah,
it's like, how do I do something?
Besides sit here and wait and watch.
And for me, like, luckily I'm in the Park City Rotary Club here, and by chance, Justin Martinez, who's the county sheriff, Justin's in there with me. And Justin's a friend, lives across the way from the store, and he's in here. So I was able to call Justin and on the personal call, just sort of check in, and I got a little bit of more information than they were releasing at the time. And, personally it gave me a great deal of comfort knowing how serious it was, how much they were, the amount of resources they were putting in there. And it's tough because you still don't want to tell everybody to stand down. But at the point that the rallying cry was going out, it was the middle of the night, and it's kind of a mountain range of backcountry, and no one knows where to even begin. And the last thing you want to do is have, in this case, it was over 70 people out searching for Stephen. You don't want to suddenly flood it with 40 other people and
maybe lose one of them or misplace.
But you still don't want to sit around. You know, it's just, and so the store, we didn't get much done that whole week, even after we found out that Stephen had passed and had been caught in that slide. And so, I was just really happy that people felt comfortable enough to show up here and hang out, and it was good. I think it was good for all of us as a way to process, and we still miss Stephen, and it's still unbelievable, really, at this point. But an interesting thing about the running community and the hub, and I'm just really it's separate from the reality of what happened to Stephen. Feel just really ingratiated, I guess, or blessed that people would think of us as a place to go. You know, that we've kind of been able to get into that.
And you've been here for about a year then now.
Yeah, so that was March 27th when we got that permit signed, so we're coming up on that right now. So I've been having fun since we rolled into March, because now I keep thinking about what I was doing a year ago from today. We did our official opening, like when we said, hey, we're really open. We were so bummed. We really wanted to open like April 1st. I guess given that's April Fool's Day, that might not have been a good way to start, but April 3rd is when we actually opened.
Okay.
So April 3rd will mark our first year.
Nice. Doing anything special?
No, I don't think so. Because, it depends how you look at it, I suppose. There's a large number of us from the store which are all off racing that weekend. So myself, Dom Layfield, who we mentioned, who's one of my partners, another partner, Paul Charwell. So basically my partners are my friends that were kind of runners, and we all just pitched in together to try to make a store happen. A whole bunch of us. There's about, I think it's like, I don't know, you might remember the number too, but I think we probably have like 12 runners from the greater Utah area here going out to run the Gorge 100K, and that's April 2nd. And then, so we'll be probably, this might be our grand opening. All right, so now that I think about it, when I moved out here, I moved from Portland. I used to, at that point, I was head of sales for Solomon for all the footwear and apparel, and I was also the product manager for North America. But we were owned by Adidas, so I lived in Portland for a few years before coming out here. And when my wife and I moved, we thought for sure we'd be back there in like a few years. So we left some stuff back there. We left actually 15 cases of wine in a wine locker over by the Burnside Bridge. So this race is us picking up 15 cases of wine. Don't let the ABC hear us. We're going to be carting all that back into the state. And I can say for sure we're picking up 15 cases of wine. I can't attest to exactly how much is making its way back here, though.
I went to school in Portland, and my school was on East Burnside, so I'm familiar with the Burnside. So I hope all your wine's still there. I hope it's in one of the good parts of Burnside.
Well, since you're familiar with the area, and for people that are not, the East Side, which is, say, more industrial, This is on the east side of the bridge, but just like a block or two past the bridge. And it's this fascinating business. I won't bore everybody with all the details, but essentially they took these old industrial buildings and went in the basements, and then they converted it to its temperature controlled and humidity controlled. And I think we pay like $20. We're not big collectors, mind you. This is just something that happened, but we had like $20 a quarter or something to keep this there. It's like plywood lockers, like with padlocks on it. But it kind of looks like scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark now. It's like the business has been so successful. They keep busting out walls and expanding.
Putting more plywood doors up.
More plywood doors. They have like the perimeter has stuff. You can get 24-hour access. All the wine stores around there like store things in there and stuff. So I know we're way off topic from Park City Running Company, but
that's okay.
That's usually where we go here.
But I'm going to call that our sort of our year anniversary party. But in truth, Jenna Eaton, who works for us, is going to be running in the Barkley Marathons, and that starts on the 2nd. And by the 3rd, she better still be on course and running. Right. And so our plan will be to cheer her on.
And by the 5th, she better be back behind the register, right?
Yeah. No, I think she's going to need a little bit of time off. But it's funny. It's like because of the race, the Gorge, where everybody's headed out. It was pretty late in the process. We realized that it was conflicting with the Barkley Marathon date because we actually all wanted to fly out and support her and cheer her on. So now the talk is, do we drive back from the race at the Gorge out by Portland on the 3rd and everybody jump on planes and like see if we can rally there to catch her finish this thing? So we haven't figured that part out yet, but that seems to be the latest talk right now.
That would be cool.
So there may be nobody here, actually. We may just give you the worst service ever as a store because like we're all off. We're just gone.
Just give me the key.
That's right.
I got no plans that day.
Yeah.
So you moved here from Portland. How did this store come about? Like, when did you decide I'm going to open a store in Park City? I mean, was it kind of a off-the-cuff thing? Was it planned? I mean, how did this plan come about?
That's a good question. I think it's been evolving over time. And so there's a few highlights in my past that kind of maybe have led me to this moment. So I've worked on the wholesale side of the outdoor sporting goods business really for the last 20 years. And when I was in college, so I'd gone off in the Marine Corps after school, and I got out, and I was like, I've always been a runner. I've run cross country, in school, and that's just been a constant in my life. And it still is, and as you imagine having a store, but like it really has been this common thread through everything. But when I was in the Marine Corps, I got into climbing. I was doing high angle rope rescue and some fun stuff, trying to rescue pilots and that kind of thing. And so when I got out and was going to school, I started working in a climbing shop. And so I'd been around retail while going to school. I, was a store, working on the floor, was a manager, buyer, but it was really kind of my school job, and then was fortunate enough to go from there to become a sales rep for the North Face and started traveling around and doing that. While I was there, I realized there was this outdoor industry and there was a career there and what this could be. And then I got really lucky. Just things kind of came my way, and I got promoted and moved up through the ranks fairly quickly. And before you know it, I was kind of these executive roles. And by the time I come out to Park City, I had left Salomon. We just been sold recently from Adidas to Amer Sporting Goods. Ironically, Salomon is now here in Utah, but
Ogden, Utah.
Yeah, in Ogden. And we didn't know at the time like where we'd end up. In fact, they were looking. Speaking of Portland, we were looking over on the east side there at some buildings to kind of create what exists in Ogden now out there. But I had been offered this job as the vice president of sales and marketing for all the footwear and apparel for Rossignol.
Oh, okay.
Owned by Quicksilver. So, here's this chance, right? Moved to a ski town, real job, life was pretty good for me at Rossignol, and Salomon it seemed to be as well. I basically was in France every other month, just working. And, but apparel, even though Quicksilver owned Rossignol, it just wasn't working for them across the board. And so the decision was to license it all out. And so I left and started a water bottle company called Waterbox. Height of the BPA scare. It wasn't like I was pining away to be the water bottle king of Park City at that point, but it happened. It was like this opportunity that fell in my lap, and then we just rolled with it, and eventually sold that to Nathan Sports. And it's kind of a long-winded way to get to how we opened a store. But when I sold the business to Nathan Sports as part of the contract, I had to be their vice president of licensing and innovation. Which is a cool job because I licensed brands. So I was making Skechers products, we're making Adidas products, New Balance, but I was also traveling to China and working in factories on products people know now. A lot of not all product is always evolving, but most of the molded bottles and handhelds, some of the vests and packs from Nathan, I was a part of either leading on some of the innovation or just a part of the team. all the LED light accessories. I launched that program for
nice.
them. Jim Frazier, who's the VP of product over there, the handheld lights that they have now and the headlights. That was really, he's the guy who brought all that to fruition. But I was the guy who like penned it all out and was like, hey, we can do this as a brand and whatnot. And so, and this is still getting back to how I open a stores. While I'm doing that, we're meeting with retailers. We're meeting with these retail advisory groups. And I met a gentleman, Chris, who's got a running store up in north of Chicago. But Chris had been an Adidas sales rep. And so I was always curious, like, what was that like, having been on the wholesale side and now having a retail store? Because, when you're on the floor and you're helping people, like, when you're at a running store, really what you're engaging with every day is people like, hey, I'm getting back into running, or hey, I've got this great race or something. It's always like to the positive, they may have some sort of injury and they're trying to figure out how to get through it. But you don't get anybody that comes in and goes, darn it, I got to run. Everybody's like super psyched
to do
Yeah,
this.
and they may not consider themselves a runner. And you know how it is with runners, like everybody's afraid of being the slow one or something like that. So you get a lot of that. But it was great to talk to Chris and to find out. So I'd always been thinking about it. And when I left Nathan, I had a non-compete clause, and so I couldn't work for a little while, which was great at first. You're just like, I'm forced not to work for a little bit. But we didn't have a running store in Park City, and that just seemed crazy to me. We had some people try, but they were kind of half starts. We had one, most recently, ZB Sports, which Wendy Halliday, who was the manager of it, is, by all accounts, everybody just raves about her, says she's doing a great job. And what had happened, though, was the person who owned it was trying to become like a .com play. Like he wanted to be like the next Zappos of running shoes. So when that business as a whole went out, and the running store here was always their warehouse. So it's kind of always like half in, half out in that sense. But Wendy had been making great headway, and I think the community was looking for that to happen. And then if you go back, like way back in Park City history, there was a person who had, I think a couple, this is like 20 years ago, had a store. When you talk to the sales reps, they'll tell you that the store is actually doing kind of okay. And then I think the couple got a divorce or something and, went away. But the town here in Park City, we market it outwardly as a ski town of 8,000 people. But the true population, because we have incorporated Park City and unincorporated, and nobody would know the difference or know what that is. So we really are we function as a town of 30,000 people. Mm-hmm. And if we were going to open up a Fleet Feet store, you need a minimum population of 100,000 people before you could open up a Fleet Feet.
Franchise.
Yeah, to do a franchising example. And so I've been thinking about it. We didn't have a store at all. And I still feel this way to this day. Our 30,000 people, since they're so active, is the 30,000, they're trying to get at with that 100,000 population number. And then the other big questions are like winter. Like what happens here is we go to ski season. Everybody was telling me in the beginning, like I had to start becoming a ski store in the winter or do something
seasonal
different.
Type.
Yeah, seasonal, which that kind of model works a little bit. The old ski shops used to sell patio furniture in the summer and they'd sell skis in the winter and stuff. And I just kept saying, no, like we need to be running, like just running 24/7. Like let's just be a straight up the middle, legit running store and take care of our people. And that's, for people that come in the store, I think one of the things that catches them, we have a fair amount of trail running, paraphernalia and gear and stuff. I mean, half our shoes are trail running, and nationally in the, running sporting goods industry, most stores would be 90 to 95% road and maybe 5 or 10% trail. And we're like a solid 50-50. And so we knew there were things we could do, or we thought there were things we could do that would make us different. And I'm really happy to say, now that we're almost a year, that we survived our first winter. And though it's slower in the winter than in the summer, as you would expect, I remember the first day it was snowing sideways, and like people were buying shoes, and I was like, all right, this can work.
If they can buy today.
Yeah, but that's partly how the coffee shop came to be too. The coffee shop actually serves like a few purposes. And for anybody who doesn't know, we have we partner with Park City Coffee Roasters, which is a really cool local coffee roaster here. And in fact, while you were doing your first show, one of the owners, Rob Hibble, was in and dropping off some coffee beans and stuff.
That.
Yeah, but he's actually a big runner. He's a sandbagger. He's one of these guys that would like to tell you that he doesn't run very much, but but he's actually right up there in the front group on all of our runs. But so that became kind of part of it too. Is like we had I was talking about like the demoing and tearing stuff down. The one thing we did not want to tear down was this counter they built in this business before us. And it's ridiculously big and large, and you would never design it in a modern retail store now. Not, where like you go to the Apple store, right? They walk around with handhelds and ring you up on the go. Like that's like the cool version of modern. In our case, we had this like massive custom built railroad ties and steel and like cement. Like the thing probably weighs a ton.
It's really pretty.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, people really seem to like it. It's just so different than anything we would have designed. But I kept trying to figure out what to do with this massive counter that was taking up a good chunk of the space, besides the obviously thing of maybe making it your cash register. And the more I thought about it, I think I was on a flight, maybe something like that. The more I thought about it, I was like, man, that really just feels like a coffee and juice bar. And then that was kind of where the idea was born from. And then we met up with Rob Hibble from Park City Coffee Roasters, who showed up here one of the places like in full demo mode, dust and everything. And he's helped me measure things, and he gives me my equipment list. And they gave us for free, I think it was 15 or 18 hours of his staff's time to train us on foaming milks and making drinks. And he gave us our shopping list. We get supplies from Park City Coffee Roasters. Sometimes if one of us is making a Costco run, we'll grab things for each other. I mean, it's just the best relationship you could ever hope for. It goes back to the community thing.
Yeah,
and then,
right.
and it's funny is like you go back to the community. Our electrician Danny Conley, he's now on. So Park City Running Company has an official race team, and Danny's one of those the racers. He runs a 240 marathon. He took second at Antelope Canyon 50 just recently, and he took second at Squaw Peak 50 last year.
Dang,
and he's like the new runner, and I never met him before in my life. And he's our electrician, and he's like, hey, I know you're just starting off. Why don't we do some kind of trade for work services and stuff here? And I was like, really? It's like he just offered it. And like that's what it's been like for us from the get-go. We've just been really lucky. And so yeah, we got this great coffee shop. And, there's a part of it which is just kind of fun and cool. And there's part of it where we're like really, some days we feel like a real coffee shop and we're really cranking along. And then there was always that part where it's like, well, maybe in the winter, if things get a little slow on the shoe side,
Slinging the coffee.
Yeah, we'll just start slinging coffees all day long. And it's probably not, people still we're the novelty to be a coffee shop in a running store. But people are catching on. I mean, I'd like to think that we make decent drinks, and that's our goal.
We had one earlier.
We had dirty chais, and they were awesome.
I thought it was delicious.
In fact, if I lived closer, I'd probably work here more often just at the counter.
I know, right? Bring my laptop over here and just work out of here.
Yeah, it'd be dangerous, but I'd do it.
Well, we do, it's runners, from the valley actually come up here at times and do that. Like we'll see a good friend of ours, Ryan Delaney, who lives down in the valley. Ryan's up here all the time, like just computer out, working, getting some drinks. It'd be interesting to see as we roll into this summer. It's obviously more people that know about us now, and how much that grows. We're gonna have some outdoor patio furniture and seating outside, and we have Wi-Fi, and it's kind of think normal coffee shop stuff.
Yeah,
just up in the front, and that's what we've got going here.
And the views are great, and the trails are close. So I mean, it's kind of all you need, really.
Yeah,
win-win for sure.
Yeah, no, it's great. And the funny thing is, like, to some extent, I think we get known a little bit for being kind of a trail running store, and we are that. I mean, it's who we all are as people. But we're also all road runners. I always say all trail runners are road runners first. They usually started in road and then eventually found the trails or converted over. You don't get too many people that start on trail only, but there's some. But
that's me. That's me. I'm one of those.
You're one of the lucky ones.
I'm one of those.
So we had to really, like, we're kind of always a little worried that we may scare people off. They see like these belt buckles on the wall or something like that, and they may just think that's all we do or that's all we cater to. And so our group runs. When we first started, gosh, I think the first group run might have had like 2 people. Well, actually, our very first group run was a road run. We had like 20 people. I think everybody just showed up, and then I think we ran too far and scared some people off. But we do trail runs on
Too far meaning like over 5K.
Yeah, it was literally it's exactly it. Yeah, no, I think we ran 6 or 8 miles, and like that scared almost everybody off. But so on what we do is we do a road run on Saturdays and a trail run on Sundays, and we do them at 8 o'clock, every time. We try some different formulas for this, but. And we stopped the road runs during the winter because, there just isn't as much road or trails to run on for that group. So we just consolidated the trail. But on our trail runs, one of the things we always wanted to say or have was that they're like, that when you're done, you feel like you went on a legit run. Like it wasn't just like, oh, I skipped around the parking lot for, a couple hours. Like you would know that you had an adventure, you saw something fun. And then we always meet up back at the store. We host for free. We always have fresh fruit. We get a big supply of fruit, yogurt, granola.
Some homemade muffins I see a lot.
Kristen Stone is always, she bakes fresh scones for us. It's the scones in the coffee shop. And so we provide scones. And now actually what's cool, so these groups now on Sundays lately have been about 15 to 20 is pretty normal. Actually for Stevens, we had a run on Stevens Memorial. We had over 35. God, we did one run last summer where we, it was a big event. We cherry-picked a weekend, and we ran from Deer Valley to the store, so it was 28 miles.
Nice.
We had 47 people show up for that.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
we had to scramble at the last minute to get some vans and stuff. We actually, no one knew it, but behind the scenes, we were scrambling on that particular day. And like my wife remembered that my youngest daughter's daycare just bought 2 15-passenger vans. We borrowed those. So we showed up looking like we actually had these really dialed-in fleet vehicles and all this stuff.
Well, then they were lucky to find like some Cheerios stuck in the seat.
Right.
yeah, right.
Goldfish.
We pulled all the car seats out. Exactly. Actually, what we did is someplace along the course, we were like, we figured we wanted to provide some sort of aid for people, but we purposely didn't tell anybody because we wanted everybody to show up with their own supplies and be responsible, that they could take care of themselves. But Haley Lubsek, who's employee, so Gentleman Eaton's employee 001, Haley's employee 002, and it's really cool how they came to work here. But Haley is just great energy, and she's actually a run coach and runs Boston and all these other marathons, and she's run some 50Ks and stuff. So fully legit. But if there's anybody you want running an aid station, it's gonna be Haley. So she set up about midway on that course, boom box. We had her. We were trying to figure out what do you do. That would be kind of fun. I was thinking about let's not do like a traditional aid station with like a little bowl of this and a little bowl of that and a hodgepodge. So we went out and bought 15 watermelons, and we just put up a watermelon stand midway on the Mid-Mountain Trail. And we had coolers of water, and we had wet towels, and Haley had music going. And we had so much watermelon, obviously, we were just giving it to cyclists. Anybody going by, was getting
Take
something.
some.
Yeah, we're like
chucking it at them.
Yeah, there's a lot of watermelon. But it was cool. Like, if you think about it, like a nice warm summer day, if you're about 15 miles in on your run or 10, 12 miles in, some nice ice cold watermelon is pretty good. But so, yeah, anyways, those group runs and all of that stuff in the community has really kind of been growing nicely. And so we don't always do that, but, it's been fun.
When you do something over here, there's some treadmills set up, and I was just watching this. You do these, I'm going to call them freaky because I couldn't do it, but you do some uphill challenge on this, right, in the store?
Yeah, we had, actually, it kind of came back to, so there's a few things going on. One of the things is we're trying to create something called Performance Lab. And, the vision in our mind probably would cost us several $100,000, like to go out and get all the equipment and everything we want. But it's this idea, this concept of trying to help people become better runners, like in a true training sense, like even up to like medical grade, help, like not from us, but from like staff that's, certified or trained. And then, so if that's like the long range vision, like a lot of running stores have a treadmill in it. And a lot of times it's used for gait analysis. Yeah. And I always find it, I don't know. I think it's always somewhat questionable, the use of the treadmill for gait analysis. I think with someone who's highly trained, it can be an incredible tool. But, a lot of running stores will have newer people to the workforce, and so, they do their best job they can. We use some video analysis things. So we actually purchased some equipment that you stand on, and it has lighting, and it allows us to see your arches, and then we can get photos and imagery of your feet. We can get images of you in different positions. And so we do a static gait analysis for the act of helping people get in the right shoes. And we use the treadmills a little bit more for like, once you've got the shoes on, we'll go watch you run in them, and we'll kind of do like analysis there. And you can really see a difference sometimes from people trying different shoes on. And so we're using it in that kind of traditional gait analysis sense. But we decided what we do is we go get 2 treadmills. We thought one treadmill wasn't enough. And so our good friends at Ultra hooked us up with a great deal. And we ended up with these like 2 Boston 4.0 treadmills, which is like their best treadmills.
Top of the line.
So we put them side by side. And of course you start thinking, well, clearly what we need to do now is start drinking beer and running against each other.
That's the next step.
Yeah,
right?
that was the next logical step, obviously. And then if you get Gentleman and I together, we'll start concocting kind of crazy ideas. And so like a couple of our runs have come off the idea of how can we haze a new employee, or, what can we do? And so in this case, we thought for our grand opening, instead of just saying, hey, come on in and, like everything's on discount or something, like we said, why don't you come on in, you run on the treadmills and you can earn discount.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
There was literally ways you could run. You could come in and like, just log into your social media and say you're here and you'd get like some discount. But if you got on there and you did 1 or 2 or 3 of these challenges, your discounts would ratchet up, across the store. And it was really fun to see people like take it on. So a lot of the challenges we created are the ones like you saw with the incline are left over from that. So we have one called Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie is for a male to run a 5-minute mile pace or a female to run a 5:30 pace and see how long you can go. And so we have records set on how long people can hold it. which sounds like it'd be like crazy, right? But like all of a sudden, like you get like the cross country team in, or you get some of these.
They're disqualified, right?
Well, you should be.
They
Right?
should be, right?
Yeah,
That's a different
crazy
class level.
Yeah.
We literally now have like like the under 10 divisions. We got kids coming in now on a pretty regular basis, actually running on these things. And so the one the kids do the most is what we did one, which is just your fastest mile.
Right.
And that's actually really fun for the kids because, like, for a lot of them, it's the first time they've had to really be determined and, like, focus and get to the goal. A lot of times they get on the treadmill and they're kind of playing. They want to hang onto the handles and step to the side and do all this. And this is like, you'll see their parents there, and it's usually a dad, but going, oh, no, you can't touch that. Let's go. Like, come on. Negative split this thing. And you're just like, okay, they're 7. But actually, the fastest kid on the treadmill, Jamison Ping, who is 7, ran the mile in 6 something.
So what?
And, like his little legs were like just. If you see the video, it's on our Facebook page. Go check it out. His little legs just like
It's like
flying.
Fred Flintstone, right?
Oh my gosh, it was
pushing the car.
amazing when you saw it. And then there's one in the industry, if you will, down at the Outdoor Retail Trade Show. There's this one they always do called 15 for 15, or it's the uphill challenge. But you run for 15 minutes at a 15% incline, and you pick the speed, and you see how far.
Right.
You can go. And that's actually a good one because, it's bite size. Like 15 minutes at 15 degrees hurts if you're really running. But it's, reasonable. Like, you're going to be off that
In
thing
15 minutes.
in 15 minutes. And like before you know it, you kind of get there. But the one that you saw and the one and this is funny, we were not promoting this. This is people took it upon themselves recently just to get fired up and get on the treadmills. But we have one called the Mountain Master, which is a run for 45 minutes and see how much total vertical gain you can get.
45 minutes in the
45
shop.
minutes.
In the shop, staring at a wall, like on 2 treadmills side by side. It's not, I was thinking about it, like if we do this in the summer, we got to just roll the treadmills outside.
Yeah.
So at least you can be outside,
See
get
the
some air, and
mountain.
see the mountain. Here you're staring at a white wall, which adds to the pain
Listening
factor.
to Adele or something on the
Yeah,
stereo.
well, you need to get one of that picture of the kitten that's just holding on and says, hang in there, champ, something like that.
My God. Well, it's crazy, too, is like, I don't know what happened, but in the last 48 hours or 72 hours, like one of our guys, Danny Conley, goes, hey, is it all right if I come in and use the mill? I want to take another crack at, then I'm like, yeah, go for it. So I put a post up. And the next thing you know, I start receiving text messages. Hey, Dominic Layfield, Pete Stoughton, John Trivia. These are all locals. They're coming in to like run on this thing. And sure enough, they all show up in force. And then now we got more people showing up because John Trivia is our new mountain master. He got 4,049 feet in 45 minutes on a treadmill.
That's amazing.
Had it at 20% incline the entire time and ran it at, I think it was about the equivalent of kind of a 12-minute mile pace or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it used to be like when this first started, what was cool about that event was that you would have different ways or approaches. Like the first person in was Matthew Van Horn. He had set the record and he put it at 20% incline and just kind of stayed steady on it. Danny Conley, who I'd mentioned, he'd come in and he's a fast, road marathoner. So he thought he'd go lower angle and just run fast. And, he didn't get what he wanted out of it. So, and then Gentleman, Ian was the second one, or third. And Gentleman power hiked it. And like as an example, when Gentleman was power hiking at a 20% incline, she was getting a foot every second. So 10 feet every 10 seconds.
Wow.
But when she needed a break, she'd lower the angle a little bit and go to a run. So like,
Oh,
as
gotcha.
yeah,
Good
as a-
strategy.
yeah, and as a spectator, you'd look at it, and when she was running, you thought, oh man, it looks great. Like she's really moving along there. But what we noticed was she was getting 7 feet for every 10 seconds when she did that. So I think most of them, if they could, they'd have the incline at 30 or 40% and power hike the
Just
thing.
go for it.
Just go for vertical gain. But so we have a bunch of those, and they really are, just meant to be fun. I mean, it's like us with our Big Mac mile we did recently. Like we're not really taking all this like too terribly serious.
Right.
And if people want to show up and throw down, that's great. We literally have kids that do it, and we'll keep concocting new
Craziness.
challenges. I would say the one thing I think that's super cool about treadmill challenges though overall, if within reason, it could be hard to run on those things, right? But you can do it any place in the world. Like really, you don't. It's the kind of fun thing is any one of these challenges we created. If someone else someplace wanted to
See what they could do.
or take it on, it transfers like perfectly. So
Right.
That's
Yeah.
one I'll probably skip on my to-do list.
Yeah.
Is the 45 minutes on a treadmill see how high I can get. I'd probably end up with like burns on the knees, just falling
that's
down.
rough
or
when that
something.
happens.
And I was thinking back to your challenge earlier about your discount.
Yeah.
like how good your challenge. I would probably end up paying more for stuff because that's how poor I would be on some of those challenges. I'd be like, this is the
There's
best
a penalty for not completing the challenge.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, this
That'd
is
be
the
good.
best.
A
17
negative, you know,
Yeah,
instead.
exactly.
It's
That's
right.
where I would be. I'd be paying $17
like an
for a gel
over-under.
pack.
Yeah.
We should do something like, because we have the coffee shop, if you walk in here with a Starbucks coffee in your hand, like, you know, there's a penalty or something like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
No, you know, it's funny. I mean, we only did that one day, but it was funny. Like, it was kind of cool to see people, you know, I don't know, like, I didn't know how people would react to it. It was really, that was a lot of Jenilyn's idea. She got all fired up on it, and, like, people got fired up on it, you know, like, you're like, all right,
It's
that's
something
cool.
different.
It's
right?
a great way to create that community in your store, right? I mean, it's there. It's bringing everybody here,
Yeah.
which is it's a need, right?
Well, and you get them engaged. And, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like still from a store perspective, like, we have to have the right products and we
Yep.
have to provide great service. And, like, we do the classics, you know, like, we have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee on the shoes as an example. So if you come in and we get you all dialed in on the fit, and, you know, you make the best decision you can, and sometimes you get out there running and you know usually pretty quickly that a shoe's going to work or not work. Well, we don't want you stuck with that. So you can bring it back even after you've run in it for a month, you know. So
They're all dirty, and you can bring them back.
Yep.
That's
Yep, dirty,
awesome. So Eric
grungy.
and I were just talking about this
We
the other
were
day.
talking about it on the trail the other day.
Yeah,
I've tried some shoes in
Eric
the past.
wants to try some shoes.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
tried some in the past, a certain edition, and after 2 miles, heinous blisters.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I thought, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And now there's a new version out that I tried on, and it feels super nice. But I'm like, I don't
But-
want to get stuck with another $160 in my pocket, you know, sitting
exactly.
as my lawn mowing
Yeah,
shoes or something.
And you know the person at the store, and this is a store we have up in Ogden, and she goes, "Well, if you run on the treadmill, yeah, you can bring them back." Well, Eric's like, "Well, I don't run on the treadmill, right?"
Right.
So that's really awesome that you do that. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty unique.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things, like, we just were thinking about it, like, when we were starting, and I don't know, you know, it's funny. This is kind of where the idea came from, is like Home Depot. You know, it's like this weird thing, like, when I was doing the demo of the store, right? Like, when I'm like, I felt like I lived at Home Depot. I thought
yeah.
I really was a horrible retailer. I was just really good at going to Home Depot and buying stuff. But they're like so easy going about the return policy that you're like, yeah, I'll buy some more lumber. Like, I'll give it a try.
Right.
And I'm sure for all the things I've returned in the long run, they're more than made out fine, you know. And
yeah.
so I was thinking about that with running shoes, you know, and like right now, if you live in Park City, you know, we would tend to either, I got to go down to Salt Lake and you're going to go hit one of the great stores down there. And there's some great stores in Salt Lake. So you're going to either be down there, or you're really what most people do because they don't want to drive down, is they'll order online. So there's a lot of online shopping up here. And, you know, if we really want to give you great service, and we want to like really work on the fit. So we spend time with people there, and we think that's a reason to come to us opposed to going online. The satisfaction guarantee is also that, you know, like, you're not going to be able to go run in a shoe for a month on trail and then send it back to whoever that online, you know, retailer is. And so we just really want to get you in the right shoe, and kind of harkening back to that Home Depot experience, there's always like no hassle about it too.
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy.
Makes a huge difference.
So that's a really big part for us. You know, we really want this to not be like, people generally are like, you sure? Like, you know, I feel really bad, or they feel awkward, or they feel bad. Or like, no, come on, if it's not working, like, let us work with you and get you in a different shoe. And we get them into another shoe, but we like to think we have some pretty good shoes here, and there's a good selection. And
there
we can
is,
do
for
that.
sure. In fact, after this podcast, I'm going to turn into a customer.
Yeah, he's been chomping at the bit to get into these shoes, folks. He's getting these Hokas for like at least a month now.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you know, Eric's not a Hoka guy, but
I honestly am not. I've been a Pearl guy ever since I started running. They just have a good fit. I've tried other shoes. They just didn't feel as good, but I did try a pair on that felt pretty cozy.
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see, folks.
So that's kind of our, I don't know, like some of our key things is, you know, when we talk about community and service, and then, you know, things like this return policy that we have. And so far, you know, I don't think anybody's really ever taken advantage. I mean, they use it, but I don't think we've been taking advantage of it.
right.
No, it all feels normal or right. And, you know, we also then, one of the things you have to do, I think, if you're going to be a specialty, you know, retail store, is you have to have inventory. Like, you've got to be able to be in stock. And sure, sometimes we'll sell a size, but, you know, we like to think that we got 4 other options for you that are equal. And we tend to, as a store, we don't really push a brand. Like, at some level, it doesn't matter to us what shoe you buy, right? Like, what matters to us is that you buy the right shoe that fits the best for you. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we quite often will like to have, like, say, 4 variations of the exact same thing from different brands, so that if someone describes what kind of running they're doing, whether it's road, trail, hybrid, you name it, that we have at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 options for that person. And that's what we do. We kind of bring them out and we start working on the fit process. And, you know, once we've we take some of the hard work out for the customer in that like they don't have to worry about like how the shoe's made. We'll tell them a little about it, but really what we've done is if you describe what you're doing, we'll find those shoes that are good for that use. And then you get to focus on the comfort.
You get to
focus on the fit. And, once we figure out what's working for you, we start dialing in on size, and we may adjust. Then once we know what you like, then it's easy for us to like say, okay, look, now I can just go grab something for you real quick and narrow this down. And I think that's why even with that return policy that we have, even though it's used fairly regularly, but not as often as you would think, in that I'd like to think we're getting people in some good shoes.
Right.
But I think to your experience, like where you ran 2 miles and then you felt I've had the same thing happen to me. Like I had a pair of shoes once, I was running, I don't even think I made it a mile. I was like, like this is not going to be good. But I was determined to keep running and see if I could break it in and soften it up. And then eventually I had to take them back. And I was fortunate because remember my past at Solomon, this is a Solomon shoes, so I was going directly to the source in this case. And
that was
a
little bit easier.
Yeah, they just gave me another pair because they gave me the first pair. I'm like, all right, sweet. Like, and it fit great. Like there was like some weird flaw in that one shoe, but I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been out actually using it, and I would hate to think that I had, because it was the snow cross, it's the winter boot. I'd hate to think that I had spent $200 on something and then nobody would help me out or something,
And I was lucky on the one that didn't fit me. Well, I didn't have to buy it.
You
it was
trying it out.
Yeah, I was trying
like
it out. It was kind of like someone returned their shoe. Yeah, so I mean, it was good on that end, and that's it's just hard. It's not like stores have a demo fleet.
No,
So it's like bringing it back, and back to what you're saying is, if you are open and you help these people, they're not. I don't think the tendency to take advantage of that is harder. It's like, wow, that person did everything.
Especially in the trail running community.
Yeah, it's a little different, I think, too. I mean, it's different than buying a pair of jeans at Nordstrom's and,
Is that where you get your jeans?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. After I bedazzle them.
He's got all those rhinestones on there.
They won't take them back.
He's having a hard time sitting right now. He's sliding off the chair.
I am. I did. God, that's why I have these back problems. That's the
Exactly. No, there's also I think it's like you have to look at this in the long run. Like you can't be thinking about. I mean, it's hard because like you're running a business, you worry about day to day, but you're really trying to make the long play. You're trying to think, what's it like 5 years from now? Like what's gonna be like 10 years from now? Like, thinking you think about a store like this. We're not building the store, creating it for today. We're trying to imagine what's this going to be like 15 years down the road, and there's a whole bunch of other people working here, and I may not even be here at that point.
So what is your long play then? You guys try to open up somewhere else?
I don't know exactly. I think there's a few places. I think there's a few options.
We have a suggestion for you.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, we need one up in Ogden.
Oh, right. Well, you've had a couple changes up there recently.
We do. We need a store like this in Ogden. And I know the perfect guy to run it for you. This guy right here.
Is that because I'm unemployed?
Free, right?
That's because you're unemployed right now.
He's not unemployed. He's just future employable, I guess.
I like that.
That's
I like that
great
sound.
way to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we need a local store because we don't have a local store now.
That's and obviously we're all talking about a store that is sold to a larger group, but I feel like with the specialty store, there's a few ways you're going to go with it. I mean, it could play out a number of different ways, but you could say, hey, you're going to become the mini retail empire, and like in say a Park City, we could open 3 or 4 stores, and they could be different. Like you have an all women's store, you could have an all men's store, you could have an all road store, trail, you could be, I don't know, we could have a coffee shop by itself. Like you could do things that could be like the mini retail empire, as I call it. But you could also, I think, in specialty retail stores, if you can leverage the business to purchase the property you're in.
Right.
And then maybe your long-term play is that, your retirement, if you will, is the sale of the building down the road,
Right.
And then you just keep the business cranking along because that's, fun and good. You could do things like that happened in Ogden where they sold it to a conglomerate, a Finish Line, retail specialty group, or and do that kind of thing. But we're really we only created the store really for the community. So I think we're just gonna, as long as the community will have us, and as long as the community will keep coming here, we're just going to keep focusing on taking care of the community, and it'll be interesting to see what that is in 20 years. Like it will just evolve with whatever the community wants and does, and so, evolve with the type of running that's popular maybe at that point.
Well, as we talked about on many episodes, we're Facebook stalkers, and we're not
totally
close to. I mean, it takes an hour-ish to get here to Park City. So it's not like we've come to the store, participated in the runs, but we can watch them. And that's so when you talk about being a part of the community, it is more than evident and obvious that that's what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, the people you draw here, because we stalk everybody. We're not equal opportunity stalkers here.
That's right.
And the people you draw in here and the people that you bring here are good people.
They
I
are.
mean, they're just neat, genuine people, and we can name a lot of names, but we won't because it might embarrass them. But and I think you've done within a year an amazing job of that with the stuff you have going on. I mean, you're kind of the talk of the town still.
Yep.
People don't feel like they have to endorse it, but they do because they have a great experience.
Yeah, and it's when you walk in the store, it's really neat. And if you haven't been here, you need to come here.
Oh, you have to come here.
It's the details, right? And so every time I look around, I notice this new detail, right? There's they got the buckles on the wall. And as an ultra runner, you're going to know what that's about. So immediately you're identifying with the person that owns it and the people that work here. And then you go around the corner and you're like, oh, there's some bibs right there from Wasatch Steeplechase or from Wasatch 100. There's another way that you're identifying with the culture of the store.
Yeah.
And that's huge, right? I mean, you nailed that. The culture of the store spoke to me immediately when I walk in. Now I want to come back, right? Even though it's an hour away, I want to come back. Like, it feels like it's my store now.
Yeah, and that's why I said if I lived closer, I'd be up to the, especially now where I'm future employable, I'd be the,
That's right.
slinging. I'm like, hey, sling me another one of those coffees over
That's
here.
right.
No, I mean, it's incredibly kind of you guys to say that, and it's funny. Is like that means more to me, anyways, by a long shot. I mean, by a long shot than our sales numbers or any of that kind of thing. It's like, the sales and the business and all that's going to be there, and you need an economic right to survive. So you need the business to work. But I mean, fundamentally, like, it goes back to what I'm saying. We can just take care of our running community as runners ourselves. I think we're going to end up okay. And it's funny, the store, we kept it kind of clean. Like we call it rustic industrial is our sort of take. We basically repurposed almost everything that we could that was here before us. So we still even have in stores like some of the steel and pieces that they had. We've built all of our fixtures ourselves from
So that
Home
way, when you
Depot
have the
and all
next store, you can pull it out of the
You're right.
storage
Yeah,
and
there you
use
go.
it, right?
You got those tanning booth glasses because I could use a pair of those.
Well, I'll tell you a slightly funny story. So, like, when I first come to check out the space, so a buddy of mine, David Nadler, owns this center we're in. And that's kind of what put me over the top in opening the store. I was, like, really thinking about it. But, I was talking with my friend David, and we were talking about restaurants or something in Park City. I think we were bemoaning the fact that we only have, like, one breakfast place that's kind of that we could all access. And we're like, I can't believe we don't have, like, just great breakfast places around here. And not to put down a couple that are here, I could think of a couple in particular that are pretty good. But, like we were talking about it, I must have mentioned something that alluded to I'd been looking at commercial space. Like, I probably knew the cost or something like that. And, he looked at me and he was like, hey, what are you looking at commercial space for? And I kind of sheepishly told him the idea because, like when you're starting a running store, you're not starting the next Facebook. You're not. This is not a get-rich scheme. Like, when you do this has got to be a passion. If it's not a passion, then you should not walk away.
Right.
It's like it's got to be something you're into. But he was great, and he brought me in here, and so we kind of looked at the space, and the tanning bed place had just vacated, left everything in place, so everything was here, like. And literally at the time, he was like, "You want anything?" It was better for him if stuff physically left the space than trying to recoup any kind of money out of it. And there's all this furniture, like leather furniture, and he's like offered it up to everybody, and to the person, everybody's looking at it, thinking about all these like oily, tan bodies off the machines. They're like, "Yeah, no,
I'm gonna pass on that one."
No. So we repurposed what we could, and we didn't repurpose everything.
Blue light and everything. You got in the store.
But no, I appreciate it. It's there's so much more we want to do with it. We have vision now. Obviously on the podcast you can't see it, but it's got a pretty tall ceiling. I think it's like
so. Was that
30
when you
feet.
first walked in? Was that open, or was that kind of hidden from the tanning?
It was hidden, but there, if this makes sense. So when I first came in, like I have on my computer still, if you see these photos I took of the space when I first walked it, like they wouldn't mean anything to anybody because you'd look at it and go, that's a silly photo. Like, why am I looking at this rafter? Or like, what am I looking at? And what I was doing was sort of spying the framing, if you will, of the space. And not, I was trying to look beyond all the stuff they had built and all the walls and doors and everything in the middle. And I was like looking at the height of the ceilings. And if you could imagine the place empty, you go, wow, that'd be pretty open and airy. And then you're like, wow, like there's this area that we have our shoes in now, we call it footwear, which is usually like the center point of any like good specialty run retail store. And those are all these little individual rooms. And so we're trying to I was looking at the ceiling there because it's like a 15-foot ceiling. And I was like, oh, it's all clean. It's painted silver. I was like, things like that. It was this kind of weird thing, but trying to figure it out how we, could create the look in here. And I knew that when you think about living in a mountain town, you got to kind of pay homage to that and cater to it. And so the wood and that kind of feel, and some of the color of the wood was already established by that counter that was already in place. We were kind of matching that color scheme. The floor that's in here is a cement floor. It was all beat up, still is, but we kind of like that.
Yeah,
We're sort of like,
good.
We just, in fact, we're getting ready to strip it down and wax it here again. It'll look really polished. We were just waiting for all the salt. We keep salting for all the snow out there, and so we were waiting for all that to go away. But so we're just trying to build off of what was here. So I could see it, but it was all hidden, and there was no lighting in here. So all the lights you see in the store now, we added. Okay. So they didn't really have lights. They had they were using natural light. They had these couple fans, like wood fans that were hanging from the ceilings. The ceiling's tall enough, though, especially on one side of our store. It's like it's like an A-frame split in half, and we have half of it, and it flattens out when it gets to one part of the store. Well, there's a tall window, as you can see if you're here on the back, and we want to put a loft in.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Kind of comes
I
out
see
about
that.
2/3 out into the store, and maybe halfway one direction. We'll change the configuration on the ground floor, move the shoe wall forward. We're already we're not even a year old. We already
You're
know
still
we
remodeling.
Yeah,
in your
we're
head.
remodeling in our heads already. We need a little more space actually for the coffee shop. One of the things with the coffee shop is, there's funny things that we're purchasing, right? Like, hey, we're a running store. Yes, we're buying espresso grinding machines. Those things are $1,500 a piece for a grinding machine.
Right.
My kids, essentially, not to drop numbers, but like an espresso machine, like these industrial espresso machines, it's like almost $10,000, in one of those things, which my kids think is like a giant hot chocolate machine, basically. We do make the best hot chocolate in the world, so I will give us that. But you're down buying stuff like a triple sink, and you got to buy things for the health department and like the refrigerator units, and as soon as you add the word commercial to anything like a refrigerator or a sink or something, I swear the price goes up $1,000. It's just so it needs a little space. It needs a little bit of room, in around the sinks and stuff. And we'd like to, I think I was telling you guys earlier, and I'm really serious about this. We will add a beer and wine license to this.
That's
it's just a
amazing.
question if it's this summer
I wasn't
going
going to bring that up because you said that before we started to put you
know.
on the spot.
Oh,
but there it is.
that's so
He
cool.
threw it out.
Well, that's kind of how the coffee shop happened. When I had the idea and I started telling people about it, we weren't committed to it yet at that point, but all of a sudden, everybody's got excited. You could tell everybody's excited about the idea of this coffee shop. And then I was like, uh-oh, I got to do this now.
Right.
I can't back down. So I'm putting the beer and wine out there as in I don't want to back down from that.
Right.
I think, not everybody in our area obviously will consume alcohol and caffeine and stuff, and we got great options for all of our friends that don't.
Right.
But it's certainly a large part of the running community and the vibe and the scene is, we like to have some good craft beer, and we happen to have a local brewing company, Park City Brewing Company, that started up here about a year ago, and we've been in talks with them about bringing their beer in on tap. And so we just got to be willing, we're just trying to get settled in on our first year. So we just got to feel comfortable, we're ready to jump into that. And we're still taking on things we just started an official elite level race team. We've got now these boot camp style classes and strong legs and happy hips, and we did yoga in here the other night. So we're not all hardcore. We're definitely talking beer wine. We did yoga. We had 28 people in here. We'll strip out the stores.
I was going to say, I can't see
where
where you're
did
going
you
to...
them?
Everything is on wheels. So everything.
I see that.
Yeah, everything is on. And
Ah,
we went out and bought some
genius.
big fancy casters that are really big, so we can roll
that
it.
brings up a question. I think Eric I don't know if you're ready to talk about this or not, but we want to have a movie here.
Yes, we do.
Oh, what kind of movie? One where everybody comes in and
Kissing
Yeah.
the Rock.
Kissing the Rock.
Well, this would be interesting. So, by chance, this is a good opportunity. My wife happens to be the executive director of the Park City Film Series.
Oh, wow.
And so we put on a movie here. We did the Barkley Marathons
Yeah,
film.
we came
Right,
to
we
it.
came to that.
Right, you guys there?
Heinous snowstorm. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's
that was
right.
good fun driving home.
so point being, we always have access to a pretty big theater and
Right.
equipment. And if we wanted to do it in the store, if we think Kissing the Rock would be a more intimate crowd like that, it's easy to do here actually.
Because that's not a very long movie.
It's
How long is
22
it?
minutes. So
Is
Matt,
it 22? Is that it?
Matt Trappy just messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to do one on the Wasatch Front because I brought."
So we got the right.
Running
We
the
kind of
Edge.
had first dibs on it.
Well,
So
so
we're
he
like-
contacted my wife as well.
Yeah.
So
So
we're like,
22
where's-
would be short. You'd have to do
right.
almost like a mini festival or something.
Well, we were
Right.
thinking about doing a 22-minute showing and then having a couple Hard Rock veterans
That's
come
here?
in for Q&A. And
Yeah.
we've got a lot of those here.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we can
So-
totally do that here. We got access to all the equipment, and that's the nice thing is we literally did go buy these really big oversized casters so that we can just roll stuff
everything
away,
out.
and it's a cement floor, so
Yeah.
it's 2 seconds. It's we just push everything back. The store is empty. We had actually this is irony given that Steven, who we talked about earlier, was at the class, but we did an avalanche safety awareness class here.
Right.
That was interesting. We had 28 people or 27 people in here for that. I mean, it's really nice. Like we have space, and the way I look at it, it's like here, so like anytime they just use it. Like there's no reason for it to sit around. But yeah, so we'd love to do that.
Yeah, well, it's an awesome space for sure.
It is,
and we'll explore even more of it when it's over. But
Yep.
we're going to take a quick break because we come back. We want to talk to you a little bit because you've got a little meat on your schedule this year. So we want to talk to you about the non-business part of running to get to know a little bit.
All right.
So we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jim Skaggs, and you are listening to the Trail Manners Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Trail Manners Podcast. So again, we are at Park City Running Company today. This is our second interview. So today we're talking to the owner. And Canice, you've got big race coming up. Western States.
Yep, got into Western States. My lottery luck usually does not work well for me, but this year I got
So how many
lucky.
times did you put in before you actually got in?
So I mean, this is really lucky. This is only my third time.
That is good.
And when you look at, if I remember right, and I think this is pretty close. If I'm off, it's only going to be by a little bit. But if you have, if it's your first time entering Western this year, you had like a 2.8% chance of getting in. I mean, just this ridiculously small number. And for anyone who doesn't know, like you enter the first year, you get one ticket in a raffle. The second year, you get two. Third year, you get four, and it keeps doubling. And the theory being, at some point, you're gonna have so many tickets, you're gonna have to get drawn.
Finally, draw your name.
So this is my third year, and I had a 13% chance of getting in. And last year, I entered 500s, and I got into one. The five that I'd entered. And I ran some more races. I ran a lot of races not so much last year, but I ran a bunch. But of five, I only got into one. So I don't think of myself as someone who's got good lottery luck.
So you'd probably stay out of Vegas and places where the odds are not going to be in your favor.
yeah. I don't know. I don't think of myself as an unlucky person. I just don't do well in even like last year, one of the races. I mean, I tried to get into some kind of more difficult races to get into, but one of them, UTMB, I thought would have been pretty easy, and that it's such a massive race. I'm like, there's got to be a ton of slots, And I didn't get into that one. That one I was like, really? Like, I didn't get into there. But fortunately, last year I got into Wasatch, and so I did have a race that's very obviously close to us and special, and so I did have a great race out of that. But
right on.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So you've done, races like the Bryce 100, Speed Goat, the Bear, Wasatch. This year, you mentioned earlier, you're going to Gorge Falls for the 100K.
Yeah, it'll be my first time. Really excited about that.
And then after that, you're doing Miwok.
Yeah,
100K.
Part of my training plan for Western is this sort of series of races that I've got coming up.
And see, that's what I was going to ask you, because you look at your race schedule, and it looks like you're like setting your schedule up for Western. I mean, most people get into Western, hey, that's my A race, that's my focus race. So is that how you're preparing? Are you preparing mainly via these races, or do you do a lot of, because you're here a lot probably for work? I mean,
Yeah, no, it's, you open a running store and you don't get to run as much as you think, or as much as you would. It's a little of both. So I won't bore you with all the details, but Western has got a special place for me. And it goes back to, it was like 2002. I was commuting to work on my motorcycle. This is out in San Francisco area. I was like right out in front of Berkeley on Highway 80. So Highway 80, but out in Berkeley. And a steel pipe comes off a contractor's truck in front of me. And I kind of dodge it and just sort of miss. And this pipe at about, 55 miles per hour goes through my right knee like a direct impact. And so it's about as ugly as you might imagine, right? Like I'm lucky I don't go down. It's like its own story, and like, just not crashing in rush hour traffic, and essentially drove the next few miles to work with my leg dangling off. And because I basically couldn't get help. I couldn't stop. There was none of the traffic was stopping or anything. So fast forward a little bit to the time I'm in the hospital. And I'm in the ER and stuff, and I should like to just go on record as apologizing to my mother right now. There is a point when she calls. I'm like, at this point, I'm pretty doped up on morphine. Like, I'm at the hospital. Like, I'm not really in too much stress. I'm just sort of dealing with this, which to me isn't much other than laying in bed and just watching them clean up and take care of me. But my mother calls, and this is the one little quick story, because I just want to, going back to me apologizing. I'm like, that's no big deal. Like, I'm okay. And they haven't even taken X-rays yet. I'll give you a call afterwards. I basically am just trying to like put her at ease, right? And by the time all this is done, like I'm just out of it. And so she calls a friend of mine at the time, and this friend calls my mother back. It's like, well, look. I found out that Canice is off to surgery, but they think they may have to amputate his leg. So my mother goes from me going like, it's really, look, I haven't even had an X-ray. It's okay.
No big deal.
I may be out of here like in a couple
flesh
hours.
wound.
Totally. Merely a flesh wound. What are you going to do you bleed on me? Which is about all I was good for at the time. And so I still have that piece of paper where I actually had to sign for the amputation and stuff. And obviously they didn't take me to do that. But it was pretty messed up. I mean, it took I've had 5 surgeries or something on that knee. And a good buddy of mine that I've known for quite a few years, Topher Gaylord.
Yeah.
Back when Toph ran his first Western States, and we all worked in the North Face together. And so I didn't know what it was. I didn't really know what ultra running was. I didn't know what Western was. It wasn't on my radar so much. I was really just living a diehard climber's lifestyle. That's all I was focused on. And I ran all the time still because I've always been a runner, but also just trail running, mountain running, more like it wasn't just fitness. It was exploration probably. It was more like I was just running around the mountains to run around the mountains kind of thing. And stay fit, obviously, at the same time, and that kind of thing. But Toph went off to run Western States, and he was I didn't know anything about it, but he was all set on this idea of running this 100 miles in under 24 hours, which just seemed really out there, right? Think about anybody when they first even hear about a 100-mile run, they're like, what? How many days does that take you?
Yeah.
Stage race? You drive it?
You
and
run the whole thing?
So you fast forward, and he did. That first year, he got his buckle and is super psyched. And now Toph's obviously a phenomenal runner, and people in the circle certainly know him. But so that was kind of the first bit of awareness I had to ultra running and what was going on. And then this knee thing happens, and then I'm kind of working through. And literally my first goal I set after this accident was I was just wanting to be able to stand up and take a shower. Mm-hmm. It took me a month before I could stand, because as soon as I would stand, my leg would just balloon up and swell and everything. And it was, just like any of these stories, it just took a long time to get to where I could walk again. And then the first time I ran a mile on a treadmill was actually at a physical therapist's office. My leg still doesn't bend all the way as a result of this, and I still have pain and some numbness and whatnot. But I was in a ball of sweat. I ran a mile on a treadmill, and you would have thought I just finished 100 miles. I was gone. And then fast forward out here, now we're in 2007-ish, and a friend of my wife's, Jean, is coming out, and Jean Coulter, and she's running Wasatch 100 for her first time, and she asked if I'd pace her. And which is funny when you look back on it, because I had no business pacing her. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never been on these ultra runs, and that was my first exposure, to the scene, right? And I paced her the last 25 miles. I paced her from Brighton over to the Old Finish, if you will.
Right.
And so
you got thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, but which is probably if for anybody out there that's going to pace somebody their first time, and if they're rather new, the last 25 is your best section to pace, in that they're probably going to move their slowest, right?
But they're going to need maybe the most help.
Well, that's what
right?
happened.
Psychologically, physically, they need the most help.
Yeah, you're so on it. That's exactly what happened. So she's running strong when I see her at Big Mountain Pass. She's running strong ahead, of course, when we see her at Lambs.
Right.
And so I go over to Brian, and I'm kind of ready, and I'm there about an hour. I'm ready to go basically about an hour before she's supposed to be in, just to be ready. I don't even know what ready is, actually. I just basically in my clothes.
You're just there bouncing off the walls,
cold,
ready to go, right?
Yeah, at the morgue. I don't even know it's called the morgue. I don't know enough to know that this is the morgue that I'm at. I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm just seeing this little scene, and I'm checking it out. And Jean is late. She's an hour or two late. She shows up, and Jean, I apologize if you listen to this and you hear this story, but it's an inspirational part of the story, and it's what got me this sort of Toph story and this Jean story, what got me into this ultra running. But I knew things were kind of bad for her, because she grabbed a clipboard off a table with maybe 2 sheets of paper, crawled under one of the tables, and used the clipboard as a pillow. And I was like, oh man, if that clipboard looks like a pillow right now, she's hurting for sure. And
look who just came in.
Oh, here we go. Gentleman's in the house.
She's got a rock.
She's carrying a rock. That's the first
Why are you
thing I
carrying a
noticed.
rock?
Oh, that's not just any rock, folks.
That's a bighorn
I think she's
place.
bringing in trophies here.
Yes.
Nice. Yes.
That's another good little element to add to the store, right?
Yeah. You can bring your belt buckles here, and we display them for you. And we will we'll take anybody's trophies. Actually, they're, if you do ever do this, they're yours. We put your name on them and stuff, and you can pick them up at any time.
I just got a cool one from Sears the other day. I'll bring by.
Yeah, exactly. We actually had a woman try to buy one day. She's like, "How much are these?"
Right?
I'm like, "We got to run 100 miles." She goes, "Oh, forget that." So anyways, I'll just keep that story quick. Jean and I leave Brighton. It takes a lot. There's actually a woman. I don't know her real name, Jean Wood, but I know her nickname became the Wasatch Whisperer after this because she managed to talk Jean into leaving. Like Jean was like, "No, I'm not going." And so I head out the door with her, and I'm like, I don't even know the course. That's what's crazy. Is like I don't even know how to leave.
So which way do we go?
Literally, I'm like, oh my god, like I'm gonna get us lost. Like I don't even know where I'm going. I'm thinking like there must be ribbons on trees or something, and that's literally how we found our way to the finish. Like I remember when we got to the paved road at the very end, I didn't know to go right or left, and it wasn't like marked. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to screw this up now.
Yeah.
But so what happens is we're climbing up out of Brighton, and Jean obviously is really wanted to finish. You know, it's not like you can force someone to finish 100 miles, and so she's out there on her own, but it's taken a good bit of motivation to get her going. We're now like passing people that are plopped down on the trail, like that are just like done for.
Yep.
And then that's kind of making her think she wants to stop. And I'm just focusing on, look, you know what? Because I don't even, like I said, I don't know the course and it's dark, so I can't see it. I've never run this. Obviously now I've done it so many times, it's kind of comical to look back on it. But I'm just saying, I know we're going up something. So I'm like, look, let's just get to the top. When we get to the top, if you want to come back down, I'll come back down with you. Like, I'll do that. But it's just, but why do I have to go to the top to decide that? You know, because all I'm
That's what
thinking
everybody thinks is on the top of things.
yeah, like, we're just going to go up there. And then so, you know, kind of as you'd expect, we do. And then once we're up top, Catherine Pass, you know, like, well, if you want to run down a little bit, Gene, I'll go with you down a little ways. And she goes, all right. You know, she's kind of like, just kind of, she's accepting of it, but she's also kind of half in, half out.
Right.
So we're running down. We're getting down. But, you know, it's a pretty kind of rough trail when you're
Yeah,
That's
going down
nasty.
that, going down
race.
that Knolls is pretty hard.
That's
That's
nasty.
technical.
Yeah, no, and it is. And, you know, it's funny. It's like you go on like a training run, you're like flying along it.
Right.
You know, and even then it's technical, but like mile, whatever that is now, 80-ish, you know, like it's pretty tough. And we get down near Aunt Knowles. I think we're probably at the aid station or just before. And she says, you know what? I need you to pull your cell phone out and you got to call someone to pick me up because I'm done. And so I look at her and I said, I didn't bring a cell phone. It's just you and me. We're going to the finish. It's the only way out of here. And she was so mad, so mad. But by the time we get to pole line, you know, the sun's starting to come up, and I think they had some sausage. I'm doing everything I can just to run ahead and get food and back and forth. She starts getting a little pep in her step, and now we're kind of like moving around. We're getting over. I just remember like seeing Tippanogus when we were. There used to be an aid station en route to the dive and the plunge. They used to keep one up there, and which I was blown away by. I like I said, I didn't know anything about the course, and I'm like, well, how did they get an aid station out here? You know, it was like incredible. And now Jean's going, like, you know, and you get to that point where she knows she's going to finish, and like it was incredible. And so we get to the finish line, we roll across. I peel off to the side to let her go through. And my wife looks at me and she goes, "Are you crying?" And I'm like,
You're like, no.
I'm like, no. And I was like, yeah, I've never just run for somebody else. Like I've never had that experience. And to watch Jean push through so many things and to get in there and finish. And I forget her finishing time, but it's like 28 hours. Like, I mean, she still has like a
solid.
great finish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, you know, like all that suffering and everything was delaying her from what would have been probably faster. I mean, she's still like incredibly strong, fit athlete, and she's done a couple Wasatch Cinch and a bunch of other races. But anyways, I know the question was how I get to Western, but it's really kind of these two moments. It's really my buddy Topher going off and doing it the first time that makes me aware. It's my knee getting all banged up, and then it's, you know, having that experience on the Wasatch. And, you know, and I just kind of started down my own journey of, you know, ultra running, if you will. Like I decided I had to sign up for Wasatch myself, and was fat and out of shape, and just, you know, like decided I got to go do this thing. Had never run an ultra before, so I've never run anything beyond a marathon. I've done lots of long-distance adventure racing, like multi-day, 10-day races. I did a 600-mile adventure race once, which was kind of cool in of its own thing. But just running, you know, 100 miles, it was like crazy talk. I was like, what's that going to be like? And so I signed up, and then here we go. So along that path, along that journey, one of the doctors, while I was getting one of my many surgeries, I said, you know, one of these days I want to run 100 miles. I want to run in those Western states. And he laughed. Like, it wasn't like he was trying to be mean about it. He just laughed. Like, it was like
crazy.
Yeah, like it was almost like a tough love laugh. Like,
Right.
You're not going to run 10 miles, let alone 100 miles. So for me, going to Western states has this other meaning. This is kind of, it's
Completes
not
the
a
circle, right?
Yeah, it's not a completion of the journey, maybe,
Right.
but it's I'm gonna like cross that finish line regardless of what time it takes me or what place I come in, and I'm gonna my knee's still messed up, but I'll feel like I've kind of like gone that full
But you've
circle on that
remembered
thing.
from when that happened to when you cross the finish line.
And I'll be thinking about the entire time I'm running. You
Yeah.
know? Like I thought about that first time I finished Wasatch. A couple miles out from the finish line when it was at the, it was the first year it was at Soldier Hollow, and so you
Right.
could see it as you're across the golf course.
Yep.
And you're just like, it was pretty emotional. Like I'm not a overly emotional person, but these are a couple of my emotional points. And so I think for me, Western States is that, and the schedule you see that I'm racing, a gorge and a Miwok. It's carefully. Well, one, there's a lottery to get into Miwok, so that's a
Right.
bit of luck. But so we've got the gorge April 2nd, and we have Miwok May 7th, and then you've got Western June 25th. So I purposely have these 100K races a month apart, and then you got about a month and a half before Western States, and then I'm really still working on building my base up because I really have been in the store. I'm still kind of fat and out of shape, and if I could, in fact, my Wasatch run last year was literally off the couch. I had 0 training days going into that thing. I was just really had no business going to the start line. I just felt like since I was healthy and people would forgive me for a DNF, but they wouldn't forgive me for a DNS. Like, I do not start when you've got a coveted spot and you're healthy. It just seemed wrong. It ended up being a really great race, actually. It went really well for me. So maybe not training was the secret.
That's the secret. Not for everybody.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I don't say, a lot of that was like if you just mitigate things, the heat and all that stuff, you can kind of move along pretty well. But so that's kind of my plan, and so I'm still like ramping base up. So right now I'm on a program of running 6 days a week, an hour to 2 hours a day, and not worrying about the distance, but focusing on just consistency. I've been picking routes that a lot of times I'm leading a group run or something, and we do that. But when I'm on my own or I'm running, I've been running a lot with my friend Dom Layfield, and so when Dom and I are running around a lot, I'm trying to pick routes that I can run so I can hip flexors are moving and my hamstrings. And he's like, you feel like you're running. Because to me, Western is going to be a
run.
It's going to be very
run.
runnable.
It's a very
lot of
different
downhill.
Yeah, such a
Right.
different style course,
Yeah.
right? And the trail itself is packed and wide and easy to move on. And
Right.
at least we'll have to see how I feel afterwards. I've never done the course before, but I grew up in that area, so I kind of know those hills fairly well, but I don't know these trails. So, and I signed up for on Memorial Day. I'm going out for the 3-day training
for the
run out
Western
there for the
States.
Western States
Okay.
thing. Yeah, that's going to be really fun. So, that's going to be cool, like to go pre-run the course. So I would think I'll have, I'm going to get my butt kicked here April 2nd and go run this 100K. By Miwok, I want to be able to run it pretty quick.
Yeah.
By the training run, I think at that point I'm just scouting the course and checking it out,
Right.
and then that'll roll me up into Western. But the hard thing with obviously all this ultra stuff is, could your stomach turn that day? Does the heat get you? What happens? You don't know. There's so much out of your control. But I like to think that by the time I get to that start line, unlike last year at Wasatch, this time I'll go to the start line at least knowing I've put everything into it that I can to get ready and then see what happens.
Right.
So.
Well, I know me and Joel are looking forward to coming back to seeing the buckle on the wall. So
Yep,
I hope you've
for
got
sure.
a special place picked out for that one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not entirely sure. I think the question will be just. I kind of feel like, barring some crazy thing, like I'm pretty comfortable with the distance now, having done a handful of these hundreds. So it's really, I think, going to be a kind of a question of time and like what the experience is. And so I am still actually like really just focused on the experience ultimately. Like I just want to sort of take it all in and kind of move quickly. But I have to say, in some ways, I'm the most nervous about running one of these hundreds for this because I care about how fast I go. Like I want to take an honest crack at it, given that that's such a fast course in general, and so I want to go out there and see what I can do.
Nice. And I think that's what a lot of people do it for, and that's a great course to check it out, right? It's the big one.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing to think like how. I don't know what it was like actually when Topher did it that first time, but that would have been like, I don't know, like 97, 98 or something. So
Wow.
it was a much smaller thing then. I don't think they turned people away. I don't think it was a lottery. It's like.
I think they still ran in jean shorts back then too.
Yeah, right. Like our guy Jesse down there, and
Yeah,
Love Canyon
that's
get in trouble. I don't know. It'd be fun though. But ultimately, I just how it is in this sport. It's about the people you're with.
Yeah.
And what'd be different though is when we run around here in Utah, like you're on course, you see so many people you know.
Yeah.
You go to an aid station, you roll up, there's your friends that take care
Mm-hmm.
of you, and stuff like that. This will be a little different because I won't
Yeah.
know anybody,
Yeah.
at all. I
Well,
mean,
you'll meet-
we'll know
you'll
a
meet
few
him at
people.
camp.
Now people
Yes.
will know you though.
Yeah.
That should be on the podcast.
That's
Yeah.
true.
People
Oh,
will
That's
say,
right.
"Oh yeah, I know him."
Global icon.
Yeah,
That's right.
You're gonna look for the guy who's got a face fit for radio, and then that'll be me right there.
Well, we, I always wind down, but we, again, appreciate you letting us come over and take the store over for a few hours, sitting here and doing some shows and taking the time to meet with us. So
We're always happy to, and if you want to make that movie happen, let's do it. We'll
That'd
get
be
Kissing the
cool.
Rock on
that'd
here.
be awesome.
That'd be awesome
Yeah,
to do that.
sweet. So, again, Park City Run Company. Don't forget to stop by. There's a lot going on all the time,
Yep.
even on weekends. A lot
Follow
of
them on
great gear.
Facebook.
Yeah, you follow them on Facebook. There's always something going down here. I guarantee you will.
Here you go, and I'll throw out one secret egg, if you will.
Uh-oh.
This Sunday at 8:00, we're doing our group run, and Epson. Maybe from printers, where they make watches, GPS watches. So Epson is the #1 brand in Japan. They're kind of like in Japan what Garmin is to us here. We have 60 Epson $300 GPS watches we're giving away to everybody
Did
in
you
our
say
group run.
60?
Well, good thing this show doesn't air when
Until
this
next
happens. 'Cause
Thursday.
maybe me and Joe swing up.
Yeah, we're gonna swing back up and
Then let me say this: come run with us. You never know what's going to happen.
there you go.
Right. I think we'll end with that. So again, Cass, thanks for
Thank
letting
you.
us stay here. Thank you for listening to the Trail Manners podcast. We'd like to thank Canice and Park City Running Company for letting us take over the shop for a little bit today. You can check them out at their website at parkcityrunningcompany.com or on Facebook, Park City Running Company. They've got lots of cool things going on up here. It's an amazing store, amazing people up here. Come by, say hi, grab a coffee, support them in Park City here. We want to encourage you all to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Trail Manners. Swing by our website at trailmanners.com. Hit us up on the contact page. Let us know what you want to see, who you want to hear, or even if you want to be on the show. Don't forget to come say hi at Buffalo Run in just a day or two on Antelope Island. We're going to have Studio 78 set up there for you. Come by, say hi, maybe jump on the show. So until next time, this is Eric Manning with Joel Hatch reminding you, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. Now go get it.